Hello and welcome to Mr. Mars Lockdown History, quick 2-minute summaries of a variety of different historical topics. Today we're going to be looking at the Great War and we're going to be discovering what life was like in the trenches for the soldiers that experienced this. Trenches are one of the key parts of the Great War. They're perhaps the bit which is best remembered. The first side to start digging a trench was the Germans, and they did this in order to try and keep control of the land that they'd gained. Trenches were extremely long. They lasted for hundreds of miles, stretching all the way from the North Sea right the way down to the Swiss border. Most trenches were on average around 6 or 7 feet deep, although this could vary depending on the area and the timing in which it had been built. The trenches were protected in a variety of ways. There was barbed wire put on them, machine guns were installed to try and prevent people from attacking, and they were largely successful. Too successful, in fact, because they made it very difficult for the other side to advance, keeping the war going on for many years. Daily life in the trenches could vary, but in simple terms, most of the time, soldiers would start around 5 o'clock in the morning at what was called stand to, which was often before daylight, in order to get ready and prepare for the day ahead. Soldiers would be given food at normal times, such as breakfast, lunch, and an evening meal as well. Each day, soldiers were expected to do general tasks, such as cleaning the trenches, cleaning their own weapons, and ensuring that they were prepared for any event which might occur. Other actions, which often took place later in the day, especially when it got dark, included going on patrols, digging other trenches, and of course there was rest time built in as well. Soldiers in the trenches obviously relied on their rations. During the war, Britain sent around 3.2 million tons of food to the front line to ensure soldiers were able to fight. The rations varied at different times of the war depending on what could be supplied, but each day soldiers would get things such as bully beef, which was corned beef in a tin, hard biscuits, which weren't meant to be hard, but often many soldiers complained the only way to get them edible was to soak them in water for a while, and they were often given supplies of bread and meat as well. Over the course of the war, as flour became harder to get, the bread was often made with things like turnip. Many of the soldiers complained as well that the water they got, because it had been transported in cans that had been used for petrol, can sometimes have a strange taste as well. One of the things the soldiers did like though was that each day they were given a ration of rum. There was a multitude of problems faced by soldiers in the trenches. Rats were a major problem, biting soldiers, keeping them up at night, and of course the sad notion that they would sometimes eat dead soldiers as well. Weather was often a problem at different times of the year. Heavy rain could flood the trenches, making the soldiers very wet, and it also led to problems such as trench foot, which was a health problem which could cause a soldier's foot to rot and often led to amputation. There was other issues as well. Disease was common in the trenches, and another problem soldiers found was lice. Lice would infest soldiers' hair and clothes, making them extremely itchy. Another problem simply was boredom. A lot of the time the soldiers simply sat around and had very little to do. Sometimes they tried to get rid of this boredom by doing things like attacking and killing rats, but much of the time they sat around complaining that actually not much was happening, fearful though of the time it actually would.